right? It all begins with two young women from different parts of the world who come together in this beautiful little town in the green heart of Italy, and only one of them survives. Boom.
Monica comes to you and says, I want to do a drama of your story. And how did you kind of take ownership of that such that it would be an empowering and healing narrative?
You know, in the years that have gone by, because it's such like this big scandalous story, a lot of people have reached out to me to say the same thing. We want to make, we want to do your story. It's crazy. And for the longest time, I said no for two reasons. One, none of them were saying, we want you to executive produce a story about yourself. Like none of them,
They just
again,
wanted life
they just want, life rights. They want, they're like, please trust us to tell your story. And like, best of intentions, love, great, fine. But also I'm a storyteller in my own right. Like I'm a creative person. My voice has value, and maybe I have some vision to share as well. But more than that, it was the fact that like for a very long time, I felt really uncomfortable with the idea of telling my story in a dramatized way because it didn't feel like my story. First of all, like it's also the story about how a girl went to Italy and got murdered. People have always like tried to compare us and sort of like pit us against each other in this horrific way when we're both victims of like the same circumstances. And I just didn't like the idea of telling a story or being a part of somebody telling a story about, again, like two girls go to Italy and only one of them survives. The end. Like it just felt wrong because I didn't do anything. Meredith didn't do it. We just went to Italy and then all of these bad things were done to us. And so it didn't feel like my story. Like, what am I, just a victim? Like, no, I don't like it. I just didn't like it. It felt voyeuristic and wrong. And it wasn't until I started myself in my real life taking action. And, the decision to reach out to my prosecutor to talk to him, the decision to go back to Italy to confront him in person, that was me.
Yeah.
That did not have to happen, but that was me taking the reins back in my own life and like decisively becoming the protagonist of my own life again. That was a story for me. And so when Monica approached me and said, hey, I was like, you know what? I think I am at this point now because I'm not just sort of a victim of circumstance. Now I'm making a choice. Now I'm taking a risk and I don't know what's going to happen because at the moment that she reached out to me, I still hadn't met him in person yet. I just reached out to him. And so over the course of like creating this show was also me doing the thing that we depict in this show, which is going back and meeting him and confronting him.
There's always an aspect like when someone is known for a story like this and it's then given you this incredible platform and you're doing all this amazing work from it, like I just want to acknowledge that like it's difficult, to be asked to traverse back through this stuff and it's become this, as I said, like platform for you to do so much good, but yet still like talking about it, if it's difficult, like I'm just sorry that, at the same time that I don't know if it's re-traumatizing to have to talk about this stuff or how you...
Yeah, I hear where you're coming from with that, but like from the very beginning, it felt like no one cared what the truth was and no one cared what I had to say. And it's interesting that you're right that in a very big way, my voice and my story is being platformed right now. And it's surreal to me because even after, the courts eventually vindicated me and freed me, it's not like the world was then like, yay, Amanda. It was I very much felt buried underneath this story that was made up by other people. And the messaging that I received was, okay, so you're not the villain that we made you out to be, but the thing you really need to do is shut up and disappear. Like, okay, you came from nothing, you blipped on our radar, we're still sort of holding it against you, be buried. And I fought so hard for so long to just to be heard.
Yeah.
You know, and to be in a position now where I really am feeling supported and recognized, I do not take that lightly. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for people going out of their way to tell me that my voice does matter. And it like starts with my husband,
Yeah.
who's also executive producer on this show. But like back when he met me, I was in hiding. Like I was not, like I didn't go to book readings because I was afraid I would get recognized. Like I lived for years just like not going to public places, or if I did, I just like kept my head low and I didn't talk to anybody and I didn't make friends because I just didn't feel like I belonged to humanity anymore. I felt ostracized. I felt exiled.
Wow.
And
do you feel like you sort of had embodied this shame that was given to you that wasn't yours?
certainly, yeah. I mean, again, like all of this happened when I was very young, right? And I was processing trauma on top of trauma, right? It all begins with, you know, two young women from different parts of the world who come together in this beautiful little town in the green heart of Italy, and only one of them survives. Boom.
Right.
One huge trauma.
And
that
you're
I'm
how
having
old
to,
when
like,
this happened?
I was 20. I was 20 years old. And then 5 days later, I'm still like in shock. I haven't even gotten past, you know, the first stage of grief, which is like denial and shock. And then I'm thrown into a prison cell and accused of having masterminded a death orgy.
I can't.
And then I'm like, okay. And then I'm surviving years of prison, which itself is a traumatic experience.
Yeah.
So like, it's just like been trauma on top of trauma that it's taken me years to sort of unravel what is this? And so when I first came home, absolutely, I was, you know, I'm looking to the world for guidance on how I'm supposed to process this traumatic experience. And what the world was telling me was, you're not a victim, shut up and disappear.
Wow.
And so, of course, like any like raw grief feelings that I have for the life that I could have lived or for my own pain that I've gone through, I'm just experiencing rejection after rejection. And I felt buried.
Can we go back to the beginning for a minute? Because
Yeah.
I just want to understand. So you grew up in Seattle or in Washington somewhere?
Yeah,
Right.
Seattle, Washington.
You grew up
yeah.
in Seattle. You're on your junior year abroad. Mm-hmm. This is like my daughter's age, you know,
Yeah.
roughly. And you move into this apartment. You're sort of like full of optimism and excitement, and you're moving into your cottage and you have a roommate. And how long... So you were establishing your life there, you were starting classes. How long into your junior year abroad did this happen?
So I was there in Perugia for 5 weeks, I believe.
That's it.
Yeah. So I was still like getting settled, you know, I was still figuring out how to say, where is the biblioteca? You know, like and it was a magical experience. Like I have to say, like everything up to the tremendous, horrible tragedy that happened was beautiful. Like I was meeting lots of other students. I was, you know, going out and drinking wine and having pizza with, you know, and going and seeing live music. And there was the flea market and there was the chocolate festival and, you know, like, and I'm living with these 3 beautiful young women, one of whom is a foreign exchange student like me, and the other 2 are Italians. And so I'm just feeling really like welcomed and homed and embraced, and it's a beautiful experience. And then I meet my boyfriend, you know, Raffaele, at this classical music concert. So everything is going the way that you would hope your study abroad experience would go. Dreamy. And I'm on like... The mentality that I was in when I came home to discover this crime scene was like, it was a special long weekend. So, I mean, I don't know if you've been in town or in the area around that time of year, but like, it's a special celebration. People do a long weekend to celebrate the days following Halloween because they're really traditional holidays in Italy. And so everyone made plans to go either visit their families or to go out of town. And Raffaele, my new boyfriend of a week, had made this plan that we would go to Gubbio, which is
Yeah,
nearby, and like enjoy truffles. He was just trying to be this like very gracious host to me. And so my plan that morning was to just go home, take a shower, get dressed into something pretty, because I'm on this like romantic adventure, and go off to Gubbio. And instead I find a crime scene.
What is the first thing you thought when you saw that?
The fortunate thing is I only saw the sort of, like, say the crime scene is like the, ground zero. I only saw the outer, I did not see ground zero with my own eyes. I saw the outer ring of it, right? So I came home and found things amiss in my house, right? Like the front door was open, there was a little bit of speckling of blood in my bathroom, and like as I was coming home, again, like I'm thinking I'm going off on this romantic like trip. I just need to get changed, get my stuff, blah blah blah. I come home and I think that's weird. Why is the front door open? There's no one here. But then I think, well, maybe someone forgot to lock the door. It maybe, like you're not thinking worst case scenario.
No,
I'm just thinking, oh, that's weird. The front door's open. And I go in the bathroom, like, oh, that's weird. Why is there blood drops? And I initially thought, oh, I had just recently pierced my ears, and I was like, are my ears bleeding? But no, it's okay, weird. Well, I guess we're all girls here. Occasionally stuff like that comes up, so whatever, it's fine. So I take a shower, get changed, and then I notice that there are 2 bathrooms in our apartment, and I go into the second bathroom to blow dry my hair. That's where the blow dryer is. And I notice that someone has left feces in the toilet. And that was the first moment that I got chills, because I was like, that wasn't explainable to me. That was a stranger has been in the house. And I immediately was like, oh no. And I went back to Raffaele and I was like, what do I do? And he was like, well, hold on. Like, you don't know, like call your roommates, like see if something is going on. And so I try calling them, and I can't get a hold of 2 of them, Meredith and Laura. I finally get a hold of Filomena. I tell her, this is weird. Were you at the house last night? Do you know what's going on? And she says, no, but that is weird. Let's meet back out the house and check it out. And she's farther away than me, so I get there first. Me and Raffaele go back into the house together, and we poke around more thoroughly. Like when I initially went to the house, I just went into my space. I went into my bedroom, I went into my bathroom, and then just blew dry my hair in the second bathroom. But this time I start looking in my other roommates' rooms. So I go to Laura's room, perfect, untouched, as if nothing happened. I go into Filomena's room, and it's ransacked. The window is broken. Clearly there's been a break-in. And immediately I tell my boyfriend, can you please call the cops? Because I don't even know how to call the cops in Italy.
Right.
So he's on the phone, and I then go to Meredith's room to try to see if anything's wrong in there. And I can't open her door. It's been locked, which is weird because, sure, Meredith has locked her door in the past a couple times, but it was always when she was inside the room, not when she was gone. And she is not answering when I am banging on her door. And I immediately think something is wrong. I don't know what is wrong, but something is wrong. So I ask Raffaele to try to break down the door. He tries kicking it down. He can't do it. So we decide to wait for the police to arrive. And they do. But they're not the police that we called. They are police who arrive who are completely separate entities. So as you know, in Italy, there are 2 completely separate entities of police. There's the Carabinieri and there's the Polizia Postale. Raffaele called the Carabinieri. That's actually the same police that his sister works for, the Carabinieri. And so he called them and explained the situation, and they had some people coming. But in the meantime, this other police entity, the Polizia Postale, had discovered these cell phones that were, these cell phones were discovered, and they show up.
And how did they know to show up to the house?
Because one of the SIM cards belonged to Filomena Romanelli, one of our roommates.
Okay.
So they're saying, we're looking for Filomena Romanelli. They're not saying we're looking for Meredith. They're looking for Filomena. And I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense because I just talked to Filomena on the phone. I don't understand why her phone would be missing. And so I'm like, but we called you about a break-in. I don't know anything about any phones, but like there's been a break-in. And they're like, what are you talking about? And we're like, what are you talking about? We just talked to you on the phone. And there's this like confusion from the get-go of
And
like,
you're doing this in Italian?
yes, and thankfully Raffaele was there to help explain, but I'm attempting to talk to people. I am not at all fluent in Italian, and I'm trying to like communicate, trying to understand, and it's complete and utter chaos.
Yeah.
Finally, they come into the house. They check things out. Philomena comes home. She has her boyfriend with her. And her boyfriend was the one who eventually broke in Meredith's store. And they discover her body. I did not see it because I was still busy talking to the police officers and, you know, trying to like respond and navigate the situation. But like she saw into her room, saw ground zero, where my friend, my roommate, fought for her life and was sexually assaulted and stabbed to death and flipped out.
Oh my gosh.
And then everyone starts screaming in Italian. And I have no idea what the fuck is going on. So we're just like rushed out of the house and I'm like picking up words here and there. And Philomena's hysterical. One of my other roommates is not there. We can't get a hold of Meredith. And they're saying, I hear there's a foot and blood in her room. And I'm like, what do you mean a foot? Like a disembodied foot? Like what happened? What is going on? And it isn't until like hours later that I actually get all of the information about like, yes, there is a body. Yes, it is Meredith. Yes, she was stabbed to death. Like, I don't know this. Like, I'm getting bits and pieces for hours. And I think one of the things that's misunderstood that this series that we've produced really tries to like correct for is like it's really easy in retrospect to look back on people and see footage of them and just assume that they have all the information and then judge them based upon your assumption that they have all the information. But like at that moment when I'm standing outside of my house and my boyfriend is trying to comfort me and I'm trying to figure out what even anyone is saying, like I didn't know what was going on. And so when I'm judged for kissing my boyfriend, he kissed me to comfort me, I'm just like in shock. You can even see the footage, like it's been out there. Like I'm just sort of like staring like this, like a deer in headlights into space. And he's just like, hey, look at me. Look at me. And then he gives me a kiss. Like that, just that was seen as proof of my guilt.
That's so
like it is nuts. And like, so something that we're really trying to like show in the series is like these tragedies that happen, they like hit people like a train. They're, you know, you're just going on your life thinking you have the best thing going on. And then this huge thing happens to you and you don't know. Like you don't know what you don't know. You don't know how to react. I was 20 years old.
And in a
foreign country, trying to piece together and never having had anything remotely to the level of like gravity of the situation. Like nothing bad had ever happened to me in my life. And then this happened. And then on the, like in the days that I'm trying to process this, this sudden loss and shock in my life, I'm also being interrogated by police officers.
Sometimes I think people arrive at narratives, true or false, and then they do everything they can to find every shred of evidence to support their narrative. What was the evidence that they started to follow that could have led them to assume your guilt?
I mean, isn't that the burning question that
I don't
has haunted
get it.
me my entire life? Yeah. And it's that haunted question of like, why did the cops take one look at a 20-year-old kid with no motive and no precedent and think there's my rapist and murderer?
Right.
Like, why?
Right.
Why would you pursue that case? And it haunted me for years. Why would they? Why me? And that's a big reason why I went back to Italy to confront my prosecutor, which is like, the framing narrative of this series. But like one of the things that we were really invested in when we were producing this was, well, what was it like to be in the shoes of the investigators really, really early on?
That's what I wanted to ask you is this like fundamentally a part of healing to get into the shoes of the persecutor / prosecutor? Like, did you start to understand how their perspective or how they arrived at this, and was this important to you in terms of your healing?
Yes. Because I never believed, ever, even while I was sitting in a prison cell, that there was just some evil prosecutor out there who was cackling away in his office about putting an innocent girl in jail.
Right.
I never believed that that was the case. I
saw
knew
that
it was
you
more complex
had
than
said that, and I just thought, to be able to embrace that kind of humanity and complexity, even and not, because really what that's saying, like, is you're separating victimhood from your soul, yourself, your identity, right?
Sure, yeah.
So how at 20 years old, how what was that like to arrive at that you weren't, that he wasn't evil, that he was mistaken? And how did you, let's start with that.
Yeah. Well, again, fortunately, unfortunately, I think I'm a very empathetic person. Like, I remember really early on, even when the police were like really putting me through it, like before my final interrogation, which was an utter violation of my human rights.
Which was the coercion.
Yes.
Which led to this last thing.
Yes.
Okay.
But like, even before I was like put through that like horrific violation of my human rights, I noticed that the cops weren't exactly being kind to me. Like, some of them were. There was definitely a translator who really like, she would notice, for example, like after I was questioned for hours and hours and hours, she would be like, hey, like, are you okay? Are you sleeping? Like, are you, like asking me that kind of, like, just checking in. None of the cops ever did that. They were never checking in. But like, I also was trying to put myself in their shoes. And I was thinking, well, someone just murdered my friend. So of course they're not going to be like, focused on the niceties. Like, they have a job to do. Mm-hmm. And so like, if they're putting me through it, if they're just asking me the same questions over and over and over again, it's because they care about getting the person who hurt my friend. And so I did not hold it against them.
That's incredible. I would have been, I think, totally out of my mind and unable to say anything except like, you've got the wrong person. Like,
well, but here's the thing. They never accused me of the crime.
Right.
They just told me that I was their most important witness. And at first, see, again, like this, it's so complex. Like, do you know the difference between interviews and interrogations in our legal system?
In America?
Yeah. It's a reflection of what they have in Italy as well.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I would like to think so, given all the true crime that I watch, but
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think this is super key, because I think people just in general don't know, and I didn't know,
right,
that there is a very legal distinction between how police officers are allowed to communicate with you when they are questioning you about a case, right? There's something called an interview and there's something called an interrogation. In an interrogation, you are being explicitly accused of a crime, and you have the right to an attorney. You have the right to remain silent. You have all of these rights. But everything leading up to that point is an interview where you have no rights and you're just being questioned. And there are no rules about how you are questioned. You can be questioned anywhere by anyone without any kind of recording. And in my case, what the police say is that I at no point was ever interrogated, that I was always being interviewed right up to my arrest.
Wow.
And I think that is one of the most troubling things that people should come away from.
Right.
Just from a like criminal justice standpoint, like if you think that you're never going to like encounter this issue, like I never did either. And bad things happen, like, you know, car crashes, whatever. Like you might end up talking to the police one day. And if you do not know that they're allowed to lie to you, that they're allowed to communicate with you and without any kind of like oversight or recording or anything, like you are going to find yourself in a very vulnerable position without realizing it.
Up until the point you're arrested.
Yeah.
And then it becomes an interrogation and there are rules.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're subjected to this for days, hours.
Yeah, days. It was my attorney did a calculation based upon the state, like I was giving sort of witness statements throughout the days leading, and he did this like a calculation of how much time I was actually in the police office answering questions, and it was 53 hours over 5 days. So over 10 hours a day, I am just with the police answering their questions over and over and over again.
And it's what point in those 53 hours did you start to think, are they seeing me as a suspect in this?
I didn't know I was a suspect until I was already days in prison and I was brought before a judge who then told me that I was being accused of murder. Like, gosh. Even during my interrogation, they never explicitly accused me of having committed the crime. What they accused me of was covering for the murderer.
And who did they suppose the murderer was?
Well, they didn't know at the time, but they said that they knew. Mm-hmm. They lied to me. And they said that they knew that I was covering for him. And they said, and what they did was they suggested to me who it might be. They took my cell phone and they saw that I had exchanged messages with my boss. I was doing like part-time job waitressing at this local pub. And they saw that I had received a text message from my boss the night of the murder where he said that it was a slow night and I didn't need to come into work. And I had responded back saying, okay, have a good night, see you later. But the police interpreted that message to mean that I had met with him that night, which would have contradicted the stories that I had been telling them, that I was with my boyfriend that whole night. And so they said, we know you're a liar. We know you met with this person. We know you witnessed this crime. What did he do?
Oh my God. It's just, it's astonishing. I mean.
Yeah.
So then you begin this process. When your Netflix documentary came out, however many years ago that was.
That was 2016, so
a
fair
long
amount of time ago, you know?
My heart broke for all of you, especially your parents. Like I can't imagine, you know, and to feel so powerless and to have you so far away. Yeah. And how much of a tax it must have been on them financially, emotionally, everything in order for them to come and to have you defended. And mm-hmm. I mean, it's you know, to your point, it's trauma on top of trauma. It's concentric circles of trauma. It's your family, it's your friends.
Yeah.
At what point, you know, I always think like when something happens that's like emotionally overwhelming, it's sort of like a car crash, you know, you've like this shock and it's so hard to connect. For me anyway, it's so hard to connect. Like I feel out of body.
Yeah.
And so when the shock started to subside and you found yourself, like, did it, or was it just ongoing because you were in prison and then you had to stand trial and then you were found guilty and it was a whole nightmare until you were released?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And thank you for mentioning that about my parents, because something that was really important for both me and Monica with this series was to show that.
Yeah, so will you just talk about your co-producer?
Yes, yeah. Okay, so Monica Lewinsky is an executive producer on this show. She was the one who came to me and said, let's make a show together. And of all the people that I could trust, like, here's this woman who has gone through her own incredible vilification and shaming in the public and attacked in such a personal way. and like expected to be buried. Like she has been forging this path forward to show that it is possible to survive that, and it is possible to build yourself a platform and share your truth. So like when she came to me, I was thrilled to partner with her because she already had been a mentor for me in many ways. And like we both agreed from very early on that there were some things that this story could tell that we wanted to break out of the mold of like both true crime and biopic, right? Like the story isn't just about a bad thing that happened to a young girl in a foreign country. Like it is about the long tail of trauma. It is about those concentric circles of trauma. It's about trying to make meaning out of the bad things that happen to you so that you can, after you've like your agency has been stolen from you in your own life, you feel like you can reclaim it, and you feel like you're the protagonist of your own life again instead of just somebody else's victim.
Yeah.
You know?
You take the steering wheel back. Yeah.
You take the steering wheel. You make choices that are meaningful to you instead of being at the mercy of other people's choices, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so like it was really important for us to show that like it wasn't just me who was traumatized. Yeah. It was my mom.
Of course.
It was my you know, and they're, again, sacrificing everything. Their whole lives became about saving me. And how are they then, you know, in Italian we say metabolizzare, how are they processing that in the aftermath? And does it create tension? Does it create connection? And how do we navigate that? So that's something that was really important to us. But yes, like, in those early days and, you know, those early weeks, again, I was a kid. And I like a lot of people ask me if like I'm embarrassed by those early days. And like, you know, I've been really judged for those early days and how I reacted. And, you know, was I doing yoga in the police station because I was sitting on these like hard chairs for hours on end, and then I would get up when they stopped questioning me and I would like do some yoga stretches, and people are like, aren't you embarrassed by that?
Why?
Well, because they say that I was being flippant and I was being, you know, I'm not like sobbing in a corner like I should be. I'm like sitting there doing yoga. Like, you know, so I've been so judged for those early days. And I'm not embarrassed. Good. Because I was just a kid. And I was, you know, I had no idea how to navigate.
But even if you weren't a kid, if I had to sit for 10 hours on a hard thing and I wasn't being allowed to leave, like, I would get up and stretch, especially if I didn't fucking do anything wrong.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's interesting how in retrospect we find fault in people, especially women.
I know.
When we want to find fault in people, especially women, we find the most stupid things to like find fault in, and to imbue with not just like a salacious narrative, but like a malicious narrative. Yeah. Like
why? Why do we do that?
Why do we do? Good question.
Why?
That is the question, my friend. Why do we do that? I mean, I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
I don't have all the answers, but like, you know, Monica is trying to figure this out. I'm trying to figure this out. And we're noticing a pattern. We're noticing the pattern that when a narrative takes hold, why certain kinds of narratives take hold, that's interesting. But it like is a boulder that is like falling down the hill and accumulating like stuff on it as it goes along. And that's what this story, this narrative about me felt like. Meanwhile, the actual murder, like, I don't know, how well do you know the case? Do you know that we know who committed the crime?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great. Yeah. Well, some people don't know that. So, like, you'd be surprised the number of people who
and he's free, right?
Yes, he's free. Out. And he's on trial again for stalking and sexually assaulting another young woman who thankfully survived this time. But, like, here we are. And nobody knows about that because he was never the story. Like, the truth of what happened to Meredith was never the story. It was always the scandal, the idea, this like pornographic fantasy about what could have happened to Meredith if her roommate was the one who was guilty.
Right. Not only her roommate, but her sort of Snow White looking, you know,
yeah,
beautiful American roommate.
Yeah, it didn't hurt the narrative that both Meredith and I were young and beautiful and had our whole lives ahead of us.
Right. I really find it fascinating that for some reason, if a beautiful woman, is seen to have done something illegal, outrageous, even just rebellious, that this sort of femme fatale narrative that will come around. Like, did you contemplate that? Do you think it would have been like this if you weren't as beautiful as you are?
I don't think the case would have reached the level of exposure that it did were both Meredith and I not beautiful young women.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were young enough that we were not fully developed people, which meant that we were very easy to project upon. Yeah. It's not like we had a history of, a career and an established sense of identity, especially in this place. Because this didn't happen in my hometown. It didn't happen in Meredith's hometown, where we were surrounded by people who knew us. Yeah. We were, wild cards.
Yeah. Blank slate.
Blank slates. Yeah. And it was very easy for people to see what they wanted to see. Mm-hmm. And I think subconsciously even, people were both attracted and repulsed by me as a young, naive woman. And it gets gross, right? Like, because in the early days, like, there's a police officer who very openly admitted that, like, one of the ways that they knew in their gut that I had something to do with the crime was because I smelled like sex. Oh my God. Which to me just suggests very strongly that there are a lot of men who were subconsciously producing a narrative based upon their own impulses instead of being able to clearly see the scenario for what it was. But like to give the police the benefit of the doubt, which is something that I truly believe in, which was not given to me, but to give it back, to pay it forward. What did the police come to? What was their context? Well, this is a small town where the worst crimes that happen are, petty theft and petty drug dealing. Like, it's a college town. Yeah. Like, that's the kind of stuff that they're used to and they're worried about.
And a music town.
It's a music town. It's a chocolate town. Like, it's a tourist town. They're not, dealing with murders every day. And so for there to be not just a murder like in a dark alley somewhere, but like someone broke into our home and attacked my roommate when she was getting ready for bed. God. Like, that was a huge threat. Yeah. It was very scary very immediately, and because there was the international student element, it became an international story very immediately. And so from the get-go, the police and the prosecutor, who in Italy prosecutors they direct the entire investigation, felt under pressure to deliver answers very, very quickly. And what did they see when they arrived at the crime scene? They saw a couple of things. They saw two roommates, one of whom was crying hysterically, and one of whom was a deer in headlights. Mm-hmm. And they noticed the difference. They noticed that there was a break-in, but not a lot of things were stolen. And in fact, from the very beginning, they thought nothing was stolen. It turned out that, Meredith's, wallet and her phones and all of that had been stolen. But in the immediacy, they were like, weird, nothing's been stolen. So we don't think this break-in is real. They made a snap judgment that the break-in was not real, and then logically deduced everything from that snap judgment.
And what about the DNA in the toilet? And,
Yeah, well, in the early days, they hadn't the DNA yet, right? Like, again, it would be great if we could have, from the very, day one, known whose DNA was there. Yeah. But they were still gathering that information and analyzing it by the time they arrested me, by the time that they had already had in their mind an idea of what they believed happened. At which point, like you said, they start searching for proof of, consciously or unconsciously, a proof of what they already believe.
Is it right that you're friendly with him now?
Yeah, I would say that we are certainly friendly. I mean, yeah, a lot of people are like, "Are you friends?" And it's like, well, define friend.
Yeah, define.
There's mutual respect, there is mutual trust and care, in the sense that, like, I care how he feels.
He then carries the shame of having done that to someone, right?
He has his own ideas about what he did, and
But
yeah.
like net, the facts are he imprisoned an innocent woman, young woman, and where they made a spectacular of somebody's life erroneously. So what was it like for you to sit across from him? I guess, why was it important for you to do that? And what did he say to you?
Yeah, good questions. So, it's funny. All of this happened. The first time I reached out to him was right before the pandemic. And of course, I didn't know the pandemic was going to happen.
Right.
But, like, in my brain, I was thinking a lot about how the adversarialness of this whole story sort of set us up for disaster. Like, I was haunted by this why question. Why me? Why did he target me? Why did he make up this crazy stuff about me that is just, like, utterly unsubstantiated by anything? Like, it goes against all of the evidence. Like, there was zero physical evidence of me at the crime scene. Like, why did he think that I was in there stabbing my friend to death when there's copious DNA of someone else? Like, why?
Yeah.
I was really struggling with that, like, in a bad way. Like, I was in pain, and I didn't want to be in pain anymore.
Right.
And it wasn't enough for me to just think he's a bad guy, because it's not true.
It's more complicated.
It's more complicated than that. And I wanted to know why. I wanted to understand. And I thought that the only way I would ever understand is if I just asked him. And if I could just sit in a room with him that's not a courtroom or not an interrogation room, maybe, just maybe, this person could see that I'm not the monster that he made me out to be. That's what I initially wanted to do. And so I reached out to him and asked to meet in person. And then the pandemic happened.
But what did you write to him, and what did he write you back?
Good question. Like, how do you start that conversation?
Yeah. Hey, bud.
Hey, dear
What's
Giuliano
up?
Magnini. What the fuck? Like, no, not that, obviously. I thought long and hard about how to do that. And I came up with a method that I actually tattooed on my arm. This is the method that I used to confront my prosecutor. And the first step is this Venn diagram, which is find common ground. The second is a helmet, which represents the steel man. I'm sure you're familiar with that. That's saying you're attacking the straw man, which means you're attacking the worst, the weakest form of another person's argument. Attacking the steel man or acknowledging the steel man means that you are able to appreciate the strongest form of another person's argument, so that if you were to repeat it back to them, they would say, yes, that is what I believe. The third one is a heart, which means have compassion. So even if a person is wrong and believes some cuckoo bananas frickin' thing, have compassion for the fact that they have a history and a context that led them to arrive at that conclusion. And the fourth is the delta symbol, which means change. So be willing to change yourself before you expect another person to change. Okay. So how do you turn that into a letter?
And what came first? That process or the letter?
This process was something that I was trying to figure out. I was trying to figure out how, my entire adult life, I've been immersed in difficult conversations. And I've been immersed in adversarial conversations where everyone sort of expected the worst of me and has viewed, sort of like cherry-picked everything that I've said in the worst possible way. Right. And so I've had to learn to, like, navigate that and articulate myself very clearly, and to make sure that, like, as best as I humanly can, I am making my intentions, not just, what the things that I'm saying, but my intentions behind the things that I'm saying very clear. And I've also had to walk away from conversations because I knew that like opening myself up also means, it doesn't just mean like being a doormat and letting anyone just like walk all over me and say whatever they want to me. Like I do have boundaries. So how do I open myself up and establish boundaries? And part of this is the process. And like one of the best ways I have found of diffusing an adversarial environment is just spending some time acknowledging what we all have in common. So when I reached out to my prosecutor, here's a man that I don't know from, any random person. All I've ever seen him is in the interrogation room and the courtroom where he has been hell-bent on destroying my life and vilifying me. That's all I know about him. Except I also know that this case has been huge in the media, and he also has been represented in the media, and I just bet that he probably feels misrepresented in the media. So I start out the conversation by saying, "Dear Dr. Giuliana Mignini, I don't know who you are. I have an idea of who you are. My idea of who you are is you're this very scary man, this very scary and powerful man who tried to ruin my life. I don't think that that's a fair idea of who you are. Just like I don't think it was a fair idea of who I was, the way that you represented me in the court and the way that the media represented me out there in the world. I want to know who you are. So could we please just like put aside you're the prosecutor and I'm the defendant and just like look each other in the eye and have a conversation as people?" And at first, he had no idea what to do with that. He was not expecting that. I'm a million miles away. And to his credit, because like it's not done. Like that kind of conversation between a prosecutor and defendant just doesn't happen.
No.
Like he actually was like, "I don't even know if it's legal." And I was like, "Well, I promise you it's not illegal because it's never happened, so there's no law about it." But like, whatever. But like, even when I was talking to like my other exoneree friends ahead of doing this, I was telling them that I was feeling this like deep instinct to reach out to him. And they were like, "Why?
Wow.
Why would you have a useless conversation with somebody who's clearly deranged and is not going to actually meet you halfway?" And like, I didn't have an answer for that. Like, I was like, well, fair point. Like, a lot of them, again, my exoneree friends were like, prosecutors do not admit that they were wrong. But it just doesn't happen. Like, they're not incentivized to do it. They have every reason not to. So why are you wasting your time? And I couldn't prove them wrong, but I still felt drawn to this human because I just felt like I had felt so dehumanized, and I wanted a human interaction.
And also, we come across people in our lives that are of great consequence.
Yeah.
Sometimes we choose them. They're a parent. They're a parent, or we choose them. They're a partner. To have someone of such consequence in your life that was thrust in there, it's...
And a complete stranger.
I understand why you had that need, that interest in humanizing him. I also think, can I just say, like, it's incredibly sophisticated emotionally and intellectually and spiritually to want to do that and to think about the wholeness of a person and to find forgiveness through those channels. It's like pretty elevated stuff. Like,
I mean, I've had a lot of time to like sit and think about it, I guess. I don't know, like, what else was I doing in there? Sit-ups, Like, I don't know. I'm a very curious person,
Yeah.
and I'm not satisfied with easy answers,
No,
which
me
means that I
neither.
have to be willing to do a very difficult thing in order to receive the difficult
hold
answer
the difficult answer.
And hold the difficult answer.
So what did he write you back?
We ended up corresponding for 2 years before I ended
This
up
gives
meeting.
me like chills. I find this so emotional.
Yeah, it gave me chills too.
I bet.
Yeah, and in the show we like didn't have enough space to show like that 2-year correspondence, and so it sort of got very beautifully and thoughtfully collapsed into some very concise scenes. Especially the scene where I go back to Italy and I confront him in person and we have that like conversation, like finally face to face, eye to eye. But I think again, always trying to be guided by finding common ground and trying again to really appreciate where someone was coming from when they arrived at a certain set of beliefs. Like,
Yeah.
my prosecutor is from a different country and a different culture and a different generation. And he has been haunted by years of, he hunted a serial killer in Italy. Like he has this whole, and he's,
Did he catch him?
No. It's an unsolved crime in Italy, the Monster of Florence case. And he was hunting the serial killer and never got it. And part of the reason why he believes he was never able to solve the crime was because there was, a conspiracy afoot, that there was like political intrigue involved. And he's also someone who has spent his career fighting mafia and corruption. And so he has this like innate sort of bent towards seeing the world through that lens. And I think that he approached this case and it triggered him in a way. Like, what happened to my roommate was horrific. Like, horrific. And I think it triggered him to interpret reality in a certain way.
It's so dangerous, isn't it? As like the things, like we're full of things that we bring to a situation, and it can be so dangerous.
Yeah, we are not blank slates.
No, we are not.
We have a lens through which we observe and understand reality, and I think he is someone who believes in himself and believes in his ability, and that's both a good thing and a thing to be careful of, because
Certainty. It's dangerous.
It's dangerous.
Did he apologize to you?
Well, I don't want to give away anything.
Okay, we're not going to.
I'm not going to give away anything, but what I will say is that we continue to correspond to this day.
Yeah.
He was texting me earlier.
It's mind-boggling.
And yeah, so I came away, I'll tell you how I came away.
Okay.
I entered into that conversation feeling like he was the one who had all the power and I was the one who was at his mercy. And I walked away feeling like it was the exact opposite. And that, like, not only was I unstoppable, I was also deeply responsible. Like, I was now holding a person and their, like, their fragility in my hands. And I felt a deep need to care for that, because it's a scary thing when someone really truly cares about what you think and what you think of them.
Yeah.
And I did not expect that. I did not expect him to turn around and care so deeply about what I think of him.
Well, imagine being in his shoes and having to sleep every night knowing what he knows,
Right. And like, how much has he really, again, processed? Like, you'll see.
Yeah.
You'll see.
Is it weird watching somebody play you?
Sure. Yes. Obviously, yes. But I think the more thing that I feel besides weirdness is how grateful I am, because I feel like for the longest time, the burden has been on me to represent myself and
Yeah.
explain myself. And now I have someone I can share that with a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. That's a
And
good
she's
point.
so graceful about it.
Something that I really do want to know. I see similarities. Like I'm very curious, and I'm always trying to get to the more complicated, layered answer. And I'm always trying to orient around healing, mine and others. And I do just want to briefly say, like, I feel extremely inspired by the tact that you took around this.
Thanks.
And
Do you meditate, by the way?
I do, yeah.
Okay, cool. I use the Waking Up app. What do you use? Do you just on your own?
I
or-
do TM. That I've done for a
okay. Yeah,
long
I've never
time.
tried that.
What's the Waking Up app?
Oh,
this is
it's-
perfect. 'Cause I want to ask you about your healing.
Yeah,
the healing modalities.
thank you. Yeah, so I started using Sam Harris's meditation app.
Oh, okay. Is that what it is? Waking Up?
Yeah, it's called Waking Up, and it's so good because it's this great gathering place of both just practice sessions, but also like lectures. And he invited me to do a series of lectures for the app. So if anyone is like more curious about like how I sort of figured out that the healing part of this journey, I did like this whole big series for him called Resilience on the Waking Up app. So like I recommend that.
Yeah.
But to like answer your question, like part of it is like I didn't discover healing, or I didn't discover meditation as a healing practice until after prison. And really like, I think it was 6 years that I've been meditating, which is not that long considering this has been going on 18 years.
Yeah.
But like I think I'm grounded in the sense that like I do feel empathy for people, and I want to feel connected to humanity. And I feel like any obstacle, including hatred, that puts me at a distance from other human beings bothers me. I instinctually want to break it down. And the thing that has actually really helped me from meditation has been just by like sitting quietly with yourself, like giving yourself the grace to just like, and time to just like be quietly with yourself. I've noticed how okay I am no matter what's happening. Like it truly is like I am okay. And there's this like beautiful like Zen paradox where it's like you and your life are perfect just the way they are, and they could use improvement. It's both true, like it's just true. And it's like, I'm okay.
In this moment.
In this moment, I am okay. And does that mean that like the world can't be a better place and that I don't have, a thing that I have to like fight back against and do the right thing and make the world, like, no, that doesn't mean anything. But like right now, I'm okay. If I stop, I'm okay. And that gives me a sense of like confidence and peace instead of like a franticness and, do things, be busy. Don't be urgent. Don't be scared. Just be effective, be present, and find your way, and you'll find your way in tune with the universe.
Wow.
Obviously, there's more than that because
No,
we could spend all day talking about like how do you process this, how do you hold it, and it's not always graceful, it's not always pretty. Like it's not that I'm like super zenned out all the time, like
Do you
feeling
feel
anger.
that you've metabolized the trauma?
Well, here's the thing about trauma. Like, it's not like it just goes away.
No, I know.
You just carry it with you, and it becomes a way that you experience the world. But, like, it can either become a way that makes you feel diminished in the world, or it becomes a thing that propels you forward. So, like, to give just a very simple example, when I gave birth to my daughter, she just got birthed and was screaming her head off, like you would. I knew she was in pain. And I was stricken by the fact that I couldn't take away her pain. And my mom was in the room with me. And I was just like, oh my God, what I'm feeling right now for my daughter, who I'm just meeting for the first time, is exactly what my mom felt.
Yeah.
The entire time
Yeah.
I was in prison. And just, whoa, how precious and how fragile is life. And like, how amazing is it that I get to be a mom when not too long ago I was sentenced to 26 years in prison and that opportunity was stolen from me. So no, I'm not going to take any of this for granted. And also, I'm just as helpless as my mom was when it comes to the life of my daughter, who is going to experience her own traumas. And all I can do is help her understand that no matter what happens, like, she can be okay. And she's not just a helpless victim. She is someone who matters, who can have a say.
What's incredible to me is that, like, this insight that you had, like, you would not have had that insight had this not happened to you.
Yeah.
You know, this tattoo, this is going to stay with me, you know, for the rest of my life. That would not be there had this not happened to you. You would not be this person. You would not be in this position of first of all, having formulated and come to these understandings that you now possess. And you would not be in this position to impact so many people, me included, by the way.
Oh,
like, this has been incredibly profound for me.
Thanks.
So
yeah, it's weird, right?
Like, would you go through it again? Do you believe that this is your path and this was part of your story, and that you had to go through something this horrible? Like,
I mean, it is my path, because
Yeah.
this is the path that was given me. And like, to your point, like, in a weird way, I am grateful to my prosecutor.
yeah. I mean, when we can get there and sort of regard our enemies with, you know, I once had someone say to me, you know, your tormentor is your mentor, you know? And I mean, it's true. If you choose to frame it that way and see it that way and unearth and excavate the lessons and the hardest things that happen to us,
Yeah.
there's so much there.
And also, you know, and you can flip it on its head, because I feel like in a way I'm his mentor now.
Right. This has been so incredible. Thank you so much for sharing
Yeah,
your
thank
story.
you.
I'm really looking forward to watching it. Also because, I mean, the story is so interesting, especially, you know, this story of a road to, like, forging forgiveness, forging healing, taking your power back. I'm really looking forward to, and congratulations on it.
Thank you.
You're
I'm
so
really
welcome.
proud of it.